Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. So, what are we doing today? Objective of the day. Can everybody see my monitor?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. The objective of the day, yesterday we introduced key value observing via playgrounds. The objective of today is to take it to a project, an Xcode project, and to build out that Xcode project using KVO. So basically, the app we see in front of us here, the storyboard canvas here, this is the app we'll be building. So it's a tab bar control. It's a tab bar controller, 2 tabs. First tab has an icon of some system image, and it has a welcome label. And our app is going to go to a second tab, which is disconnected from the first tab, right? There's no reference there. And I will, or we will, change the slider that updates the font here. And that font increases the welcome font, as well as we have a picker view that changes the icon image here on the first screen. So that uses KVO because now my first view controller is registering itself as observing this settings. We're gonna have a settings singleton as well. So it registers the settings, and anytime the settings itself changes, the UI on the view controller changes. So the second view controller updates the settings, and the settings itself has observers on it, and or rather, it's observable. And on my welcome screen, that gets updated because it has an NS key observation in that view controller. Okay, so that's the way it's gonna get updated. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
Okay. If we had to do that same sort of structure using delegation, for example, we would have to go to subclass, like what we did in Unit 4, I think, right? We subclass the tab bar controller. The tab bar controller injects all the child controllers with some sort of dependency, and then there's like a delegate. So there's like more setup there. And again, that's one-to-one. So here, if we have more tabs, how do I update that, right? So with KVO, I could have multiple tabs apart from just like those 2 tabs and still get updated. Everybody with me so far?
Yes.
All right, awesome. What are we gonna call this? Let's call this, what are we doing? Font change, KVO project. Let's just call it KVO project, that's fine. Just to keep it very generic. That way it's easier to find when we're looking through our GitHub. Because now we have a KVO introduction playground, and we'll have a KVO project. So now let's navigate to Xcode and create a new project. It's not playgrounds, it's a new project. Single view application, we'll call it KVO project or iOS project. Next, and it's not going to post CTA. I'll just put it on the desktop here, create. Awesome. So here we have our project, base project. We'll be using storyboard for this one. So let's go set up what the storyboard looks like. So click on your main storyboard. Right now we have a view controller. Let's make this smaller here. Let's see. The easiest way to probably set that up is just delete the view controller here. So delete the view controller. Go ahead and delete the view controller. And we'll go to our object library. So click on the object library add tab here and search for tab bar controller. So now we have a tab bar controller. We drag it into the canvas. Let me open up chat. just try to keep this an eye open on chat if you guys have any text questions. But feel free to jump in if there's any questions or if the pace is a bit too fast, okay, please? Yes? All right.
Yes.
Okay, so we have our tab bar controller here. So we deleted our first view controller. Let's actually connect that back by clicking on my first view controller here, the one that says item 1. So click on item 1, and we want to change the class back to view controller. Just view controller, that's the name of the default view controller we got with the project. So view controller, that's good. Next thing we need to also do, click on your tab controller, and we need to give it an entry point, because right now the arrow is not there anymore. Do we see that?
Yes.
Okay, so now click on your tab bar controller, go to Attributes Inspector, and click or check where it says is initial view controller. Check that box. Now we get our arrow back. So this is the entry point for our application. This is the first thing that gets seen or launched when we launch our app. Awesome. So we have the skeleton there. Let's just run the app and make sure that we are getting the app as we should or expect it to be. So run your application.
How did you make it the initial view controller again?
Okay, so we clicked on the tab bar controller,
Mm-hmm.
and we went to the attribute inspector.
Okay.
And this was unchecked. So if it's unchecked, there's no arrow.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
I click on it and the arrow, exactly. Perfect. Okay, so I have here's my app here. And this is, I don't know if you guys have 11.4 yet, like Xcode 11.4. No rush to install it, by the way. I think it has some like energy issues with like just taking more energy resources. So if you don't have it yet, there's no rush to install it. But basically, the simulator is somewhat different. Like there's some more additions here. Like at the top of the simulator, there's this bar. Do we see the bar?
Yeah.
So I could just like rotate here with the bar. There's like a home button. I could just go home here.
I hate the bar.
What's that?
I hate it.
You hate it, right? Yeah. I mean, most of the things you could just do with like shortcuts anyway.
Exactly. This is wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Because like this one, right? Like if you do that, then you're like, oh my God, I have to get it back. But as opposed to just doing tab and the arrow keys, right? Anyway, that's new in 11.4. There's a lot more features in 11.4, like Swift 5.2 and stuff like that. But again, there's no need to go crazy right away with those things. There's no like groundbreaking features there per se. If anything, we're looking for stability in Xcode and some bugs. Like the one bug that got fixed, we'll see very shortly. All right, so cool. I have my simulator running and we have our iOS project. Verify that we have 2 tabs. We all have 2 tabs, yes?
Yeah.
All right, so we have item 1 and item 2. Great, perfect. So now we can continue building our UI. So in our UI, it says we need a label with a welcome label. So we'll drag in a label. I'll drag the label such that the leading and the trailing edges are to the guideline. And I'll probably make it a bit taller here since our fonts is going to change. And let's set the constraints for it. So the constraints for the label, we don't have a nav bar or anything like that. That's fine. The constraints for the label, let's go ahead and set that up. So for the top, I'll make it 20 to the bottom of my safe area. To the leading, I'll make it 20. And to the trailing, I'll make it 20 as well. And for the height, I'll just make it 100 here. So I have 4 constraints: top, leading, trailing, and the height is 100, 4 constraints. And let's just center this. So click on our label, go to the attributes inspector, select center alignment here, where it says alignment, choose center. And here we'll just change this to welcome. Great. Awesome. Next step, we need an image view. So let's get an image view, search for image view in the object library, and drag an image view over to your scene here. We'll probably make the image view center. Make it center. Okay, something like this is fine. All right, cool. So let's set the constraints for the image view now. So we'll make it center horizontal and vertical. So let's go ahead and do that. So horizontally centered in container and vertically centered in container. Okay. We'll set the leading and the trailing to 20. So leading and trailing 20. And now we need to deal with the height. So for the height, we'll just probably make it a square here. So I'll control drag vertically for the height, control drag vertically to itself for the height, and I'll select aspect ratio. And I'll go to the size inspector. I'll go down to aspect ratio here to edit the multiplier, and the multiplier will be 1:1. So 1:1 is 1:1. So the width and the height is going to be the same, which makes it a square. And press enter. Great, cool. For our default image, we'll start with a sun here. Sun. We'll take sun haze.fill. So search for sun and select sun.haze.fill. So we get this. Other things you could do here, you could change the tint color if you want to like yellow. But our constraints are set for the label and for the image. Again, let's run to make sure we have the constraints correctly. Cool, so we have our welcome message and we have our sun image as well. Great.
Alex, I have a question.
Yes.
When I'm trying to run my simulator, it says no supported iOS devices are available. Connect the device to run your application or choose.
When you select, did you select the simulator up in the scheme here, in the scheme area where it says KVO iOS project? If you click on that, you got to select the simulator here. If it has generic iOS device, it's not going to run on that because it needs one of the simulators. Are you able to see your simulators? So again, click on the scheme, click on the project target. That opens up the devices and the simulators.
I only see KVO project. Oh, no, I don't see the simulators at all.
Did you created it from an iOS project, right? It's not, well.
It is, yeah, it's not a playground, it's a project.
It's a project and you have the canvas, you were able to set up the constraints and everything, correct?
Yeah.
Close Xcode and reopen it.
1 second.
Close it, reopen it, and go back to the project here, select the top project target.
1 second. Okay. All right. KVO project. I mean, when I click on the KVO project, it gives me KVO project test products. I don't have.
So when you first open the project, right? Right next to the start button, you have your KVO iOS project, correct? And when you click on that expanded dialog, does it not show simulators?
No.
What does it show when you have the arrow opened?
When I click on the arrow, it just shows KVO project test. It's like files and then products.
Files and then products. Okay. Let's see. Antonio is not here. 1 second. Send me a screenshot of your Xcode.
How do I do that again?
Shift command 4.
Okay.
Shift command 4, and you're able to select a portion of your screen.
Mm-hmm.
You see like my the plus sign, or
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so you're able to select a portion of the screen. So example, you could drag the area here and then just send me that screenshot. Let me take a look at it.
Okay.
But meanwhile, while you're doing that, create a new project and see if you have your simulators. Just like a new project, empty project, and see if you have your simulators.
Okay.
And then if it works, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. All right, so we have our welcome. We have our item here. So that's pretty much it for the first UI. Let's go to the second UI here for the second tab. Our second tab, same as what we have in the lesson here. We have a slider, and we have 2 labels, and we have a picker view. Okay, so let's go ahead and set that up. So get a label. Get a label. We'll set the constraints later. So get a label here. We'll get a slider. For the label, we'll just say select font size. Welcome page font size. So we have our first label, we have our slider, we have the actual font size that was selected, which is the next label. I should just like option drag this, but that's fine. Here, I will have a default label. For now, let's just say it's 5. That might be our default 5. Our default value of 5. Oh, what is that? Also center this. Great. And next we have our picker view. So select the picker view. It's not a date picker, it's just a regular picker view. And we'll make that center vertically and horizontally. Let's actually set the picker view first. So for our picker view, let's center it vertically and horizontally. And also I want to make the edges 0. So 0, 0 to the edges. Okay, cool. For the rest of the constraints, let's see how we'll set that up. So that's pretty much okay. Let's start with the top label first. Top label, let's set the constraints for it. Again, we'll make it 20 to the top, 20 left, 20 right, and 3 constraints. That's it. For our slider, let's set the slider's constraints. So sliders constraints, we'll make it 40 below the label, 40 below the label, 20 leading, 20 trailing, and those are 3 constraints. And lastly, we have our font size. Let's set that up. We'll make it 20. And that's fine because we're not changing this. So we'll make it 20, and we'll probably just make it center. So 20, just 1 constraint, 20. And let's center it horizontally. Cool. Great. So we have all our constraints set up. Again, run the app. Lilia,
Yes.
were you able to get a second app working?
I didn't get it. I'm just dragging things like you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. 1 second. Let me get you some help here. Antonio's going to contact you soon, okay, Lilia? Lilia?
Sorry, I thought I was mute. Yes,
Yeah,
sorry, thank you.
no, that's okay. Antonio's going to get in contact with you very shortly.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, so we run our app, we click on the second item. We should now have, the picker view doesn't have data yet, so that's fine, but you should see at most like some sort of lines here to show like you have a picker view. You should have a slider, and you should have like a default value of 5 or some value of 5 here. How are we doing so far? Doing good, cool. All right, cool. So we have all that set up. Let's actually go set up our outlets to our view controllers. Actually, we don't have too many view controllers, but let's update our view controllers here. So my first view controller.
Alex, I do apologize. I had trouble with my Xcode as well. How did you add like the number 4 slider?
The number, you mean this number here?
Yeah,
That's just a label below the slider.
Okay, so you like hard-coded the number, or
Yeah,
how
it's just
did
a
you-
hard-coded number.
Okay.
Yeah, just a hard-coded number. Thank you for bringing that up though, because let's just change our slider values for now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so for our slider values, the minimum will make it, so click on your slider. Click on your slider. It opens up the attributes inspector. Everybody with me so far? Where it says value here, we'll just make this 1. Where it says minimum, we'll make it 5. And where it says maximum, we'll make it 80. Because our font really and truly is 0, we're not going to see anything. Even 5 is hard to see. So, but for now, we'll just do 5, just to see how small it gets. So we'll go from 5 to 80. And Yulia, so the bottom is just a label.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I did.
With hard-coded 5 in there, because that's where we're going to start. Cool? Awesome. Okay, so let us open up the assistant editor here and wire up our outlets. Let's refactor the view controller, the name of it. Refactor the view controller's name. We'll call it welcome view controller. That's where the welcome icon is. And let us drag some outlets over to it. So here we have our label. So control drag from your canvas over to your view controller. And we'll just call this welcome message label or welcome label. And we have our image. Control drag over. We could call it icon image view. So those are the 2 outlets we have. There's no action. We're not doing any, there's no button clicking or anything. It just basically updates those labels here. Okay. Great. How are we doing? So far, so good? All right, awesome. So let's keep going here. Let's create a new file for our second view controller. Cocoa Touch class. It's not a UI tab controller. It's UI, subclass of UI view controller. And we'll just call this one settings view controller. Subclass of UI view controller. It's called settings view controller. And click next and create. Cool. So we have this. Let's go back to our storyboard. And let's go to our second scene here and change the class name. First, let's change the class name because right now it doesn't have a class to manage it. So click on the view controller, open up the attributes inspector, go to the class identity inspector here, and change the class to settings view controller. Again, stop me if I'm going too fast. I really want to just take this at a good pace for everybody. So feel free to let me know. Also, you could drop a message in the chat as well. I'm also monitoring the chat too, so feel free to. Okay, great. So we have our picker view. We want to also wire that up to our view controller. We have our slider. We want to put an action there for this as well. And we want to, yeah, that's it. And also the label here to change it based on what the person changes. So that's the three things we want to connect. So now let's go connect those. So we have our label here, control drag. Whoa, 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 whoa. Don't run away from me. Control drag, okay. I'll get there. If not, I'll just drag it from here. So this we'll call font size label. So we have our font size label. We're able to change it in our code. Next, we want to know when the slider was changed. So control drag from your slider over to your view controller, change type to slider, and the name will be slider changed. So slider changed, connect. Great, so we have an action for the slider. Awesome. Next, we
Somebody's
need.
calling your name, Alex, but I don't know who. Somebody.
What's that?
I said somebody just called your name, but I don't know who. Chelsea said, "Can you make the font a little bigger?"
Oh, this guy here. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Sure. Oh, that was Chelsea. Whispering Chelsea. Sorry. All right. Cool. Let's make some more space here. Make this here. Take this out here. Thank you, Eric. All right, cool. Chelsea, good? Thank you. You are welcome. All right, so we have our font size label that's connected to the 5 label here. We have our slider changed action that's connected to our slider. So as we move the slider, we get updates. And next, we have our picker view. So let's connect our picker view here. Picker view, control drag from picker view scene over here. And we'll just call this picker view. Awesome. So before we leave, let's just make sure we just change the item name. I don't think we have anything else in the storyboard to do. But for now, let's just change the item name here. We could just call it welcome. Welcome screen or something like that. Welcome page, welcome screen, it's fine. And the second one, we'll just call it settings here. So we have welcome screen and we have settings. Awesome. I'll close this out. We'll go back to our storyboard and we're pretty much okay. So everything is wired up. Everything is wired up here. Lilia?
Yes?
Were you able to get help yet?
No.
Okay, 1 second. Okay. I'll keep trying to get an update from you, Lilia, but I just start the team. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, so cool. So we have our two scenes set up. Let us now go to our welcome view controller. That's set up, that's fine. Let's actually create a next file. We'll call it settings.swift. So create a new file. It's just a Swift file. And we'll call this settings.swift. Not .swift, just settings. Sorry. Just settings, because .swift comes automatically for us. Create. And here we have our settings. So this is going to be a class, and it's called settings, basic class here. This class is the one that's going to be doing the KVO, rather, this is what we're gonna be monitoring for changes. So this class needs to be KVO compliant. So right here, I could say settings needs to be KVO compliant.
Sorry, this was a Swift file or a Cocoa Touch? This was a Swift file.
Just a Swift file, yeah.
Alex,
Yes.
I'm having a problem. I can't connect any of my objects to any of my
Your outlets?
yeah, and they're all they all are
Close and reopen.
I did that. And
Do,
now both of
I
my
can't. We can't hear you.
sorry. I did that, and now both of my pages won't connect. Before it was just the settings, and now the welcome page won't connect either. I deleted it and made a new one, and now it won't connect.
Is the classes are correct in the inspector? The class names?
Yes, for both.
Remove them and do them over. Like basically delete the class names in. So what I would do, I'll go back to storyboard here. I would go back to my view controller. I would go to the class here.
Yeah.
I would remove it, for example, press enter, and
Okay.
put it again.
Okay. I'll try that.
And make sure you press enter. What's the class called? Did I not refactor this? No, it's just playing games. Xcode.
Yeah, it's not. But why shouldn't it be there? Cause okay.
Yeah. Yeah, just try that, and that should work for you. Unless there's something else going on. Cool? No?
It says not insert new outlet connection, could not find any information for the class named welcome view controller.
Share your screen with me. I might have to stop sharing here. Can you share your screen?
Yeah, 1 second. Sorry.
Okay. Let's see.
This
Where
one.
are you? 1 second.
I had that same problem. I just closed Xcode and opened it back up, and it allowed me to connect it.
All of Xcode, you just quit it?
Yeah.
You said you closed it already, correct?
It ended up making me force quit it though. But yeah.
Okay. I closed this one, like I closed this project, but I didn't close all of Xcode.
Yeah, close Xcode and try that.
Also, sometimes when you write an outlet first and then connect, it works.
You said what?
Sometimes, if you write the outlet first, like, add IB outlet, whatever you like label, you know how we write it first and then connect?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I pressed quit. I think it's going to take a minute, but I'll try typing it.
Yeah. But sometimes that works if this doesn't work.
Okay. So I'll stop sharing now, and then I'll.
Okay.
Thank
Let us
you.
know how it goes.
Okay.
All right, cool. All right. Okay, let me just build to make sure we were on the same page where we were. Okay, so we were actually working on the settings screen, correct? On the settings model, yes? Okay.
Yes.
Cool. So we have our settings here. Let's continue on. So settings was the basic KVO compliant rules. The class itself needs to be marked at Objective-C, correct?
Yes.
What else?
It has to conform to NS object.
Needs to inherit from NS object.
Yeah,
Awesome.
sorry.
So at this point, we are pretty much good. The internals is up to us what we want to put here. But as far as like KVO compliant, this class itself is KVO compliant. Awesome. Next up, what do we want to do? Well, we want to make this a singleton. So we'll say static var shared equal to settings. And we'll go on to say private initializer. And this needs to be an override. Cool. What do we have? We have font size and we have icon name here. That's what we're keeping track of. So font size is an integer. And we have icon name, which is a string. And we'll give those defaults. So self or just font size will be 15 or 17. And we'll have icon name. Chelsea? Work for you? Okay, cool, awesome. Sunhaze. That fill. Great. So far, so good. Next, we need to mark those two properties at Objective-C and dynamic here, because we'll observe those properties. And at Objective-C, dynamic. So properties marked for observation, properties or property marked for observing. Okay. And we made it a singleton here such that we could access it anywhere in our application because we have one settings. It just makes sense to have one shared settings. And that's what we'll be monitoring. So we'll be monitoring for changes, for the font size, and for the icon name. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the settings file here. Let's keep going to the settings view controller. Wait, I am there. I am there. That's what I need. You guys to shout at me. Let me know. Let's see, Lilia. Give me like a second.
Also, Alex,
Yes.
I had to redo my constraints for the welcome view controller for the image view. I forgot what they are.
Welcome. Is your app working, by the way?
No, I haven't tried to run it. I was just trying to fix my constraints and then, yeah, I haven't tried to
Okay.
run.
The constraints for this one?
For the image view for the welcome screen.
Okay, so the image view itself was centered, like horizontally and vertically.
Okay, 1 second. Mm-hmm.
So it was centered horizontally and vertically, and the leading is 20 and the trailing is 20.
Okay.
And we made the height, because right now you have a red height, right? Like you still have red.
It actually squished into one line. Like, I don't see an image anymore. It's just one line.
It's one line.
Yeah.
Is the center, let's see. Share your screen. Let's see what's going on. Because, let's see. How are we doing with settings? Did we finish type out settings?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Great. Let me stop sharing and then you share your screen.
Share. What I'm trying to. 1 second. Where is it? Share. Okay.
1 sec.
Yeah.
Let me just see. Exit this. Okay, so where are you? You up here with the image? Undo it. Click on it. Click on the image, and clear constraints. Now drag that image view. There you go. Okay, just drag it such that the blue lines help you, the guidelines. So center horizontally and vertically. One second, Command Z. There's still constraints on this. Click on the image again. Go to clear constraints. Oh, your screen is gone. I don't see your screen anymore.
You don't? Oh, whoops. Let me try. Share.
I think you clicked on the chat or something.
Probably. 1 second. Okay.
Okay. Before you set any constraints, drag the image view such that the blue guidelines are snapped into place. No. Just hover over the image and drag it down. Where did it go? Okay. Did I see the blue guidelines? I think I did.
Yeah, right here.
Okay, cool. So set the leading and the trailing first. No, the leading and the trailing. 2020. Okay, cool. Now go set the center vertically and horizontally. What is happening on the screen?
Yeah.
Command Z. Okay, it needs a height. Just control drag from the image itself vertically. Vertical. Just select width for now. Width. And you need click on the red arrow there. I think you need a width or something. What's happening? Click on the need constraints. Icon image, this will add enough constraints. Click on icon view, the bottom, no, to the left where it says missing constraints. Click on that one, up one, right there. Expand it. Expand, you could actually drag the pane, like go to the left, go to the right, and you could actually expand, make it wider. Yes. So the white position, right? So that's center. I thought you had center already.
No.
Click on it and do center. So center vertically.
Change your device from generic as well.
Vertical, right here, right?
And add that. Okay, something is off on your thing here. Okay, click on the welcome image. That's constraint, correct? Okay, click on the image view itself. Control Z a couple times. And go to the red arrow. For now, just add missing constraints. Just click on add missing constraints. Okay. Go to where you see the hammer there at the top right by the stop sign. Right by the stop sign, up very top of Xcode to the left. Very top. Keep going to the left. Right before the stop sign. So you have play, stop, and the hammer.
Play
To the right of the stop button.
stop button.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Sorry.
So when you click on that, there's no devices, right?
No device connected to
If you
my.
do add, you're not gonna add additional simulators. Close Xcode or close that project. Just close Xcode altogether. Quit Xcode. Okay, open up Xcode again and create a new project.
Oops.
We don't see. So you could share your desktop if you want to make it easier.
Yeah. 1 second. Share. 1 second. Okay.
Okay, so Xcode. And just create a new project. Let's see something. New project. And just give it test. Just call it test project. Storyboard, new test, Swift, desktop. Where's my simulators? Generic iOS device. I think you're missing tools in your Xcode. Have you recently updated Xcode?
No, I don't have enough memory. Like I don't have enough space to do that.
Because right now you have no simulators, right? Like click on the test project again, where test project up top, where it shows the schemes. There's no devices. There's no simulators.
It was not like that before. Like when I was working on it before, it was working.
So stop sharing, shut down your computer, and restart it.
Okay.
I've seen this where the simulators or there was something missing to install, like the components for Xcode, and that could probably be the problem, maybe. But just shut down completely and then restart. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to do that right now.
All right. So you could stop sharing. And I'll share now. Okay. Can everybody see my screen settings here?
Yes.
All right, cool. So we have our settings. Everybody has typed in their settings already. Awesome, awesome. Let's keep going. Let's go to settings view controller because we have some work to do there. We have our picker view. We need to set that up. Let's go ahead and set that up. So let's write a private function here. Just call it configure picker view. And our picker view dot data source. We set ourselves as the data source, and picker view dot delegate. We set ourselves as the delegate, and we call configure picker view here. Great. Let me get some more space. So we have configure picker view, we have data source, we have delegate. So at this point, what else do we need to do? What else do we need to do? We haven't heard from her in a while. Shania.
An extension.
Extension. And what are we doing in an extension?
We are setting up the components, the names and rows and all that good stuff.
Okay, so we're conforming to the data sources and the delegate, right?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. So here we have our conformance to the data source, and also we need conformance to the delegate for the picker view. So UI picker view delegate. Cool. So what's our data source look like? Well, we have some strings that's gonna be in our picker view. So that's what the data is going to look like. So whenever we're ready, we could scroll up and see what that looks like. Can I scroll up? Cool.
Yes.
So we have data. So data for the picker view. What does that look like? We'll have a private var or just let. We'll call it icon names. It's an array of strings. And those strings represent system names. So system image names. Example, moon. And that's coming from SF symbols. So SF symbols, SF symbol. Okay, cool. So what do we have? We could have more in there, but for now we'll just have a few. We'll have sun haze. We'll have moon. We'll have globe. And we'll have iCloud. Like this way. Okay. Cool. So we have our data here to power our picker view. Great. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to multitask here. Sorry. Cool. Can we scroll down? Yes, we can. Okay, so what does the data source look like?
What was the last name after globe? It was
the last name after globe.
iCloud.
Where am I? Did it just disappear?
That's what it was.
Did it disappear? Minnie, what did you do with my code?
Trying to steal it.
You're trying to steal it? You like Mr. Antonio? Rob beneath me? Okay. All right, let's go to Tiffany. You got it, right? iCloud? Tiffany? Is she here? Is she?
I'm on mute. I'm sorry. I said thank you like a million times. Thank you, sir.
1,000,001.
Yes.
All right, let's keep going. So what does our data source look like? Well, we need number of components, right? What does number of components do? What is the component of the picker view?
The columns.
The columns, very good. In that case, we'll just return 1. So return 1. So we could refer to this as the columns, right? So number of columns. What else do we need? What else does the picker view need?
Number of rows in component.
Number of rows and components. Shouting whisperer. Can I call you shouting whisperer? Number of rows and components. Very good. And here we return our array.count. Our array is item, not item, icon names.count. So that returns the number of rows. Number of rows. Great. So at this point, we are good. We satisfied the data source. It's quite happy. Great. But picker view is a bit weird because now we have to return what? What else we're missing?
The titles.
The titles, right? Because right now we need titles. Because if I run the app, did we call components in did load? Yes, we did. So if I go to my settings now, I get a bunch of question marks. We give it data, but now we need to give it titles, as Minnie said. So now we need to go ahead and do title for component. And let's see, drum roll. Shania, you're on mute?
Yes.
Yeah. What are we doing now? So now we want to return the title for each row.
I don't remember.
Okay. Let's just try to remember together. So it returns some sort of string,
Yeah.
optional. We have an array of strings, right?
So Yes, and take the icon name.
So now we want to return the icon names. Now we need to index into that array.
Oh, the bracket index path that row.
In that case, it's not index path, right? It's row, right?
This row.
If it was a table view, it would be index path that row.
Okay.
But here we have access to the row itself.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Cool. So this is good. So now we could run our app and see if we have titles. I think we're a bit long today, so we might take a short break, because some people might want to drink some Russian water. Okay, so if we click on settings here, now we have our titles. Does everybody have their titles? Awesome. All right, so let's take a short break. Bit lengthy here. Let's take a short break and we will come back in 10 minutes. So yeah, we'll come back in 10 minutes. Actually, just come back at 11:20, so we're nice and fresh. So get that coffee, get that hot chocolate. 11:20, we're back. Cool, everybody?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
You are welcome. So let me stop share. Lilia is getting help now. Great. Okay.
Antonio texted me, but then I didn't get a chance to reply right away, and now he's not on Slack anymore.
He's not in. Just Slack him anyway.
I did.
Okay. Cool. Slack him is gonna get back to you. Let me see this. Yeah, he's gonna get back to you. He was helping his brother with something.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, you here?
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, Luba. Let me.
For some reason, I'm not getting picker view. Like I did the delegate.
Great. So let's start again. I'll continue. Where were we? So basically, we set up the settings. We set up the picker view. That's where we were. Last thing we did was set up the picker view. So if I run the app again, I have my picker view with the items in there, or the icon names. I have an error somewhere. Unresolved blah. This is one because. And so here we have our app. We go to settings. We have our picker view. Awesome. We could move the slider. It doesn't change anything yet. So let's continue working on the slider. So we in our settings view controller. We have the slider changed. Everybody has the function slider changed.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let us continue working on that here. Cool. All right, so when the slider changes, let's get a new size here. The sender has a value, sender.value, which is a float. So this currently is a float. This is what we have. So we want to change that from a float to an integer, right? So this is a float value. We want to change it from a float to an integer because our font size in our settings is an integer. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? All right. So we want to cast this to an integer. So cast float to integer. As our settings. Font size is an int. Cool. Now we could update the settings. So we could say settings dot shared dot font size equal to new size. Okay. So far, so good. Okay, so at this point, we have a font size. Now let's go ahead and have an observer on our view controller, or rather an observable object. So let's scroll up. And like we did yesterday, let's create a variable here. Is somebody talking? Let me open up the chat. I was hearing something. Chat. It works now. Oh, that was you an hour ago. That's the last thing. Okay, cool. So let's create a variable here. We'll call it font size observation. And it's a type NS key observation here. And this is review from yesterday. This is what we did yesterday. So the purpose of that again is to turn it off if I want to turn it off at any point. A good place is like when the view did disappear, I could unregister myself as an observer, or rather as observing the object. I could deregister myself or invalidate it. Madam, what you having there? Is that pancakes?
Avocados.
Avocado, my favorite. We love avocados. All right, cool. So we have our font size observation. Let's go ahead and configure it. Configure pick a view. Let's just write it down here. So private function configure font size. Right. And now we say font size observation equal to, we have settings. This is what we're observing. Settings.shared dot font size, not font size, observe. So settings.shared observe and the property we're observing. Let me make this bigger. So font size observation, settings.shared is the class we're observing. This here is the class we're observing, right? Dot observe with options. I'm trying to see this. Not this one. Options. Okay, perfect. So select the one with options. So here for the key path, it starts with a backslash and the property you want to observe. In that case, what are we trying to observe? The font size. Everybody with me here? The settings cares about the font size. And for the options, we'll say that old and that new and its settings. Yes, sir. Down, Miles, down, too loud. They hear you. Yes, they hear you. What's that?
How do they hear you?
All right, so this is what we have. Configure font size observation. We have our font size observation here. And make sure we call our configure font size. Oh my God, nobody stopped me here. I have corn figure. Get it? Corn? I like that. All right, cool. Matt, you okay?
You.
All right, so we have our key path, which is the property we interested in. In that case, is the font size. We have the options we're looking at. We have our handler, the settings, and change. And since we're going to be using self, let's break any retain cycles here. Let's guard against the size. Let's just call it new size or font size. And we'll get that value from where? Where am I getting that value from? Where am I getting the new value from? I'm in the completion handler, something got changed. How do I get that value?
Settings?
Yeah.
Settings?
Change that new value.
Change that new value, right? So change that new value is this integer I'm interested in. Okay?
Hold on.
So here, let's just put new size because we have to do some casting as well. else. Did everybody get that? Any questions about that? This is what we did yesterday. So any new change from that property comes from the change argument here. Okay. So we have the new size, great. Now we want to update our label. So we'll say self dot, what is it called? Font size label. What's that question? That text equal to new size. I'm hearing, isn't me? Just hearing things. Okay, so basically, we started off with the value being 5, but as the user changed the value on the slider, we just want to update what the value is currently on the slider itself. Everybody with me? All right. Make sure you call your configure font size observation in the view load. And let's actually test this out because we have enough to test. Let's run this. Let's go to settings. I change this value. It should go up to 80. That's what we had. And it should go all the way down to 5. Just verify this works before we move on. Does it work for everybody? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. 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 Before we leave this particular view controller, we have, let's see, we have one more item to do. So when the user changes the picker view, we want to also capture that in the settings as well. So let's do that, and then we'll now be able to go to our welcome page. So,
Chelsea asked the question.
Yes, sir, Eric?
I said Chelsea asked the question.
Oh, yeah. Where did you call the function? View the load. She answered it. Cassandra answered it.
No, let me see. Go down
Cassandra,
to your,
I think she was asking where did we call this?
Can I see your slider change?
Slider changed. So slider change, it gets the sender value. We could just call it slider, but that's fine. We get the value from the sender, and we assign it to the settings property.
All right, I think that's what I was missing. All right, I'm good. Thank you.
And then what happens is the minute this changes, our completion gets called here. Right? I mean, you could argue like we don't really need this, but here is for effect so that we could see the thing change right away. Because as we change the slider, we could have updated the value right here. Everybody sees that? Does everybody see that? So like as we change the value, we could have just changed the text as well. But here, that's for emphasis. It shows that our observation does work. So now when we go to our welcome view controller, this code is also going to work as is. Okay? All right, so next step, I have my picker view. I want to select iCloud, and I want to put that in the settings. Somebody walk me through what am I doing? How do I capture iCloud? How do I know when iCloud got selected?
Do you do a did select delegate?
Did select delegate. So thank you, Mr. Christian here. So Christian says, I will implement the protocol method did select row for the picker view, correct, Mr. Christian?
That is correct, Mr. Paul.
Thank you, sir. So did select a row is going to get called anytime I change my picker view. So that's a good place to capture what the icon is currently. Any questions? Okay, so here we have the icon name that was selected. We get that from our icons array, that row. And here we could simply store that new value or update our settings. So settings dot shared dot icon name equal to icon name. So the minute we do this, it's going to update our welcome. It's going to update our welcome screen as well. So if I select globe here and I go to welcome screen, we want this to change. Everybody with me?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so previously to that, you have to use some sort of delegate, maybe even on the custom class, or have like a view will appear, just like reload the icon. But here we're using KVO for this. Right, so in our welcome settings, welcome settings. In our welcome view controller, we will have a property very similar to what we have here that says I want to observe changes on the icon name, and I want to observe changes on the font size as well. So anytime one of those values change, update the UI. Right? Again, objective, I come here, I change this value to moon, I want this to be changed to moon. I change this here to 80, I come to the welcome screen, I want my welcome page, my welcome label to be 80 font size. Everybody clear with the objective?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So
Yeah.
let's keep going. And again, we're in a tab bar controller, right? So right now, those two children, they don't know each other. The only way they know each other, either through KVO, which we're gonna do, or either through their parent, right?
Alex,
yes.
just want to clarify. So right now, like in deselect role, we said settings that share that icon. This will send information to observer, correct or not?
Yeah, right now it doesn't do it yet, but right now we have the power because icon name on the settings, it's an observable property. If I go to my icon name here.
Yeah, so we're not doing it yet, but basically we're preparing that this line of code will be kind of sense
Exactly.
information.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we could put notes here. So when this happens, so after setting the icon name on the settings class, the welcome view controller will be dated via KVO observation.
Yeah.
Does that make sense here? And the same thing applies to, where is it? Same thing applies to the slider as well. So we could just copy this text here. Same thing applies to the slider as well. What's the slider?
Yeah.
Right here.
Slider changed.
Yeah, exactly. So font size on the settings path, we'll update. Cool. So same thing applies. Awesome.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So I think we're good with this particular view controller. Let's now go over to our welcome view controller. There's nothing else yet. Make sure you have your labels connected and your image view connected. And let's go ahead and set up observation here. So private. There's bird noises happening. Are we in the forest?
Oh, it's probably from.
But are you in the? You have a bird? You have bird sounds behind you?
Yeah, we have kind of like balcony, and it's like inner garden. And
oh my God, you're in an
pretty
oasis. Why do you even come to Pursuit?
Question.
Yulia?
I'm sorry, what did you ask?
I said, why do you even come to Pursuit? It sounds like you have an oasis in your backyard.
Oasis.
Almost. Yeah.
Did somebody say my name?
That's your name, Oasis?
No, I heard someone say Christian.
Oh,
I might be hearing things.
I'm saying Christian.
Don't answer when you don't know. Don't answer if you don't know.
Yes, Miss Tiffany.
Yes, I have a question. Is it that you set up your your observer wherever the thing that you're trying to show the observer on is located?
This guy? Are we talking about this code here?
Well, what code are you talking about?
No, I'm just trying to see where you want to start. Do you want to start in settings or you want to start?
For settings, we put our observer for the label for the label to show the slider.
That label here?
The slider's on. So the label is on the settings view controller to show the number change.
Yes.
But then we want the actual size change to be reflected on the view controller.
Exactly. On that welcome. We want that welcome to be.
But because we also still wanted to see the number change on the settings view controller is why we set up an observer there as well.
Exactly. I mean, again, there's no reason why we really need this here, but again, just for emphasis and to show that it does work, because that's what actually updates the label.
Okay.
But I could have easily had the label in the slider change as well. Does that make sense?
Oh, you could just put the
Yeah, because we have the value here. We could just change.
label?
What's that?
The welcome label that's on the.
Not the welcome label, but that the font size here.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of doing it in the completion handler, I could have easily done it in the slider changed.
Which is what? Just the.
Here, this code.
Like instead of making like a whole function for it, you mean?
Yep, exactly. I could put this here.
Okay, I got you.
Right, but to show emphasis and it does work, like our KVO does work, we had it in the configure here.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's clean that up. Okay, cool. So back in the welcome view controller, that's where we actually want that change to happen. Mm-hmm. So private var, we'll call it font size, observation. So we're observing two things here. NS key observation, and also we have the icon as well, right? Icon name observation. NS key observation. And we could write a function here. Configure observers. Private function. We'll set up the font first. So configure font size observation. And we'll have private function configure icon name observation. Okay, cool. So font size is here. We'll say font size observation equal to settings dot shared dot observe. This is that big. I just do not see what I'm optioning. Sorry.
Why do you have a configure observers? Oh, because you're gonna call those functions in that function and then call that one function in the. Okay, gotcha.
Exactly. I am trying to get options, guys. Sorry. Observe options. There. Perfect. And what are we observing? Font size for this guy. Perfect. And my options, my settings, and my change. And we're also observing the icon name. There. And yes, Tiffany, we'll just be calling those two right here. Configure icon. And also call it in the view load, configure observers. I mean, if we see, the code is very similar to like notification center with like observing things. I'm sorry?
Isn't the configure icon name observation supposed to use the icon name observation?
Am I not using it? Oh, yeah. You see copy and paste, you see what it does?
All right. I was making sure.
I didn't see that copy and paste. Thank you for the permission.
Hey, I did not. Thank you, Mr. Eric.
Alex?
Yes, he's here.
I have a question. In what case will we need the settings class itself, like, or the instance of that class that's being returned from within the completion handler.
Oh, you mean the
Like
settings? The settings here?
Yeah. Like, what would we ever use that, or in what case?
I mean, ideally, if you want to access any particular thing on the class itself, maybe you have all the settings activities you want to do or some function you want to access, you could have access to the object. It's very similar to anything like in delegation pattern where you have the table view itself.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So they give you access to the object itself being observed.
Okay.
The instance of the object.
Yeah.
Right? Let's update this. We don't have anything. We're not going to get any information. So this is going to be this. And this is going to be this. And one thing I want to show us, right? There's a DNIT. We spoke about DNIT before, right? Everybody remember? Deinitializer?
Oh my Jesus.
I don't remember.
I'll go back to the video. I'm just kidding. So there's an initializer in any view, and there's a deinitializer in any view controller. Initializer creates it, and deinitializer gets called when it's destroyed. Everybody with me? Right. So we have an initializer, we have a deinitializer. So this gets called
DNIT.
DNIT, exactly. Gets called when the object is no longer in memory.
I'm a savage.
So here you could do things like clean up your observers, for example. I could do, what observers we have? We have font size observation. I could invalidate it. And I could also call icon name observation and invalidate it. Right? For the purposes of our view controller, it's never really going to get deinitialized here because it's part of the tab bar controller. But just keep that in mind. And please remember, we have a deinitializer as well. Right? Everybody? Yes?
Yes.
Right. We'll bring one of those Swift breakout rooms again, talk about initializers. All right, so that's good here. Or you could also do it in view. View will disappear as well. You could also invalidate your observers in view will disappear.
Why do we need to invalidate it?
You no longer want to get calls from the settings view controller, for example. Like if you're no longer on screen, you don't want to get updates. It's just wasting memory resources.
So it's basically like a remover?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Remove observer, exactly. So you could do it in the DNIT, you could also do it in view will disappear. But I want to make sure that we're not forgetting DNIT. DNIT exists. For doing
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So you're basically saying that we save in like memory. It means that our observer like calls like how often, like every second, every few seconds.
I mean, whenever there's a change on the font, right? It's just gonna broadcast those changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not every second, but whenever we change the font. It's very similar to Firebase. My listener, I want to remove it if the view controller is no longer in memory. Everybody with me?
I got a question. A good way to put this.
One second. Julia?
I mean, so if we change a setting view controller once and we see that changes on a welcome view controller, why do we need this DINIT? I don't see.
That I want us to remember DINIT is part of a view controller lifecycle. In our case, the view controller is always in memory. It's part of the tab controller. But if you were to push a view controller onto the stack and you remove that view controller, you also want to stop observing for changes. Julia?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I understand. I mean, I understand what you're talking about our particular situation, but I don't understand what would be the different situation.
Do we understand what DINIT is and when it gets called?
Yes.
Okay, that's all we need to know. So it gets called when the object is destroyed, right? Julia?
Okay, yeah.
So if it gets called when the object is destroyed, I basically want to stop observing anything I was observing before.
Oh, okay. So, but when you say object is destroyed, you mean we change the value, or what does it exactly
The object is nil. It's no longer in memory.
mean? Object is destroyed. Okay.
Right. So if I have a stack, right? I have view controller 1, right? That's a stack, right? I have view controller 2. I have view controller 3, right? So far, so good? Yulia?
Yes.
Okay. If
Yeah,
I remove this view controller, it's no longer in memory. Right? That's a stack. Let's go back again. That's a stack. Right now, I have 3 view controllers on my navigation controller, for example. We have a navigation controller at the bottom here. We have a navigation controller at the bottom, correct? And we have 3 view controllers on that navigation controller. So we pushed, like I clicked on a button, I went to view controller 3, I went to view controller 2 and 1, that kind of thing. Actually, let's just do 3 to 1 here. Right, I had a first view controller, I click on that, I got to a second one, and I got to a third one. So far, so good?
Yes.
Okay, if I click on the back button on the view controller 3, it's gone, correct?
Okay, so I understand what like you're doing in code, but when you in real app, what you mean you deleting the view controller is just because you're creating some app and decided you don't need it anymore, or what exactly?
If we were supposed to have, let me actually get an app. This is good here. We need to know those things, right? Let me get an app with a back button. This one maybe has a back button, maybe not. Okay, this is probably gonna be fine. If I click on a view here, right, that got presented. This is a view controller. Yulia?
I mean, Alex, I don't need to show, just like
No, I'm saying that for the entire class,
like
because this
call it just like going back to first view controller, or what do you mean deleting third one?
So if I exit out, the view controller is no longer in memory.
Okay, so deleting, you mean just like we exiting that view controller and it's like this already, what do you mean, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, so in our situation, we are kind of like the same, we exiting one view controller, but our situation is different because it's implemented to navigation or in tab bar controller, sorry.
Exactly, so that tab bar controller, if I could go back to the app here, that tab bar controller, this particular view controller will never get out of screen. It's always on there.
Okay, makes sense now. Yeah, but if it would be not embedded to tab bar controller, we would basically, how you say, like deleting it. Yeah, destroying.
Exactly. Because if I push it,
okay,
and then,
makes sense. Yeah, now I understand. Thank you.
Yep, I want to take the time there because those are important concepts to understand. Cool.
Yes.
All right, very good. And that's for the entire class, right? Like we need to know what happens now with like view controllers and how they work and how it's on a stack, because we've seen stacks before. So all those concepts, that's where I want us to make sure that we're able to explain those. So we have a navigation controller. I push view controller 1. View controller pushes view controller 2. It pushes view controller 3. When I click on the back button of view controller 3, it gets popped. Very similar to our data structure, our stack data structure. It gets popped, it's no longer in memory. Anything that's been observed there, I should remove it as an observer. If I pop this, it's no longer in memory. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. Okay.
It makes sense, Alex. It makes sense.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I rather stop and explain those concepts before like we go further in with those. All right, cool. Eric, you had a question?
I was just confirming that dot invalidate is the way you get the observer to stop observing.
Yes, very similar to a timer. If we've dealt with timer before, it's very similar.
All right.
Awesome. Okay, so we close. So configure, what do I want to do here? Again, let's break out any return cycles here by saying with self. And we want to update some UI. So update UI. Yesterday, we did not update any UI. We simply printed out statements But here we want to update some UI. What do I want to update here? I want to update the font size. So we'll say self.font, what's it called? Welcome label that font. And I want to change the font size of this. So UI font dot system size, and we want to make this some float number. We don't have a float, but we could get a float. We could say font size equal to CG float. We cast in it. And where is, oh, I don't have the size yet. I'm sorry. Use size.
Nada.
Sorry. No, what's happening? Oh, did I get booted out? Hello?
We did. We hear you. But
Nah, it looked like the host migrated.
Oh man, what is happening?
ooh, the duppy. They told us to stop using Zoom.
Are we on the free tier now?
This is a duppy thing that.
Oh my God.
I rebuke every spirit of ghosted. You must go.
I know. 1 second. Oh yeah, yeah.
All right, so it's welcome labels equal to font size CG float.
1 second. No participant can share at a time. Multiple advanced settings. I stopped recording.
It may be changed.
Oh, 1 second.
New value.
Oh man.
In the lecture.
I don't have my record buttons right now.
It still says recording for me, so.
Okay. Yeah, I just confirmed it is recording. Awesome. But that's weird. Just got booted out. Antonio, did you boot me out?
I did.
What did I do? So let's get new size here. And we'll get new size.
You're staging a coup.
I know. Something is happening.
An overthrow.
Yeah.
Wait, but I still don't see you though.
You don't see me as, do we see the screen?
No.
Okay,
No.
cool. All right. Yeah.
I see your camera, but I don't see the screen.
Do we see the screen now?
Yeah.
Do we see the
Yes.
screen? All right.
Whatever.
I just added line 31. I added line 31 because we did not have the size yet, and it was still optional. So I added line 31. Here we have the change, that new value. We unwrap it. So we get the new size, and the new size, we cast it to a float. And now we could use new size on line 34.
Oh, wait. Is that why? Because before I just put that it was equal to the change on new value, it said that it was ambiguous. It's because we didn't guard it.
Let's see, what am I doing? Into expected float. Font size, sorry. Because that's what we changed, we cast it here. Tiffany, your question was?
I don't remember now, I'm sorry.
You said ambiguous, something was ambiguous.
Oh, yeah, before when I had just put the welcome label dot fonts equal to change dot new value, it was like it was ambiguous.
Like it needed more context, like to know what type of value it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably optional at that point because it should be an int. So here it's an int on line 31, but we convert it to a float on line 33.
Yeah.
And now you could assign it here. Cool. So that's for the font configuration.
Alex, and where new size is coming from? Sorry.
New size, where is new size? This new size here?
What? Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay.
And we are making it week Y. It's not.
We just want to break any retain cycles because we're in a closure here.
Okay.
We're in a closure here, and it's not a global class, so we want to make sure we break any retain cycles on there.
Oh, that's why, because it's supposed to be UI font.
UI font. This guy?
Oh, right.
Okay, awesome. So that's configuring update UI for font, right? And now let's go ahead and update UI for the image, or update UI for image icon. And before we forget, let's make sure we guard against this. And it's going to be icon name. Icon name we'll get from the change new value. And if we see new value here, again, Swift is a powerful language. It's able to infer what new value should be. In that case, new value is a string because it's an icon name string. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it quickly infers like what type you expect. So here, all what you have to do is just unwrap the value. And we have the type we expect, which is a string. And return. So now we have our string. We could just set up our image. What's it? So break up the return cycles here again. Weak self. And here we'll simply say self icon image view dot image equal to UI image system name, and then we pass an icon name.
Alex?
He's here.
Oh, okay, that's good. But I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So this new value stuff and like the old thing, is this kind of like snapshots?
Yes, like in database, Firebase database.
Is it like a design thing, like a pattern kind of thing, or?
We have access to the new value. We don't care about the old value. We could negate the old value, but we definitely want the new value.
Okay.
Right, because the new value is the value that was changed, or the old value was changed too.
Yeah.
Well, what's happening? Should I
think
run?
someone didn't mute their mic.
Mr. Christian.
That's okay. We'll pay attention to whatever he's saying.
Does that help you there?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. We just have old there, but we don't need old. We just need new. That's what we want.
No, it's interesting because like the syntax is similar.
Yep. Yeah. That's why I try to make references to Firebase, because we've seen Firebase in similar patterns already. Yes?
Yep.
All right, cool. At this point, we are pretty much done with our app. Let's test it. Make sure everything works. Run it. We have our sun here. Let's go to settings. Let's change the icon size. Let's change this to globe. And now let's go to welcome screen. So we have a globe and we have welcome at 80. Okay. Feels like a lot of work to get where we are, but we're here. Does everybody have the app rendering correctly? Chelsea? Where are you? Did you run and test?
Did you place the configure observers into the view did load?
Yes, definitely you have to call those. Am I frozen again? Hello? Anybody here? Am I alone in this world? I might be. Hello? Anybody hear me?
The 2 is
Hello?
like,
Am I back?
you ain't going nowhere.
Can't hear it?
I was frozen.
Oh, well, we can hear you.
Okay. I wasn't saying anything bad, right?
Yeah, you cussed a couple times. I heard you. You don't let that out.
I just ordered an Ethernet cable, so hopefully that's better. I'll go directly to the router. I was trying to do it before class today, but I had to like do some construction work too to get it to work.
So, question, right?
Yes.
If we were to like, let's say we had like an array of colors, right?
You could do that. I know where you're going.
Okay.
You want to change colors and everything, right?
Like when you change the, like, let's say you have sun, it'll be like a different kind of color background. And then if you change it to moon, it'll be like a different color background.
What would be the best way to design that?
The best way to design that, I would just make an array of colors. I would hard code it and then make the color equal to, is that a good way?
I would start with an object.
Okay.
So I would go here. I'll just show you what I'll probably have. That's a good question. So Tiffany is saying, hey, if I want to have more functionality on my the thing I changed, I'll probably start with an object here, call it whatever, icon for lack of a better object name. An icon has a name. Look at me writing like JavaScript or whatever, Python. No var. The icon has a name, right, Tiffany?
Yes.
It has a color. You see where I'm going to that?
Oh.
Not yet. It has, well, the name would be the system name. So for example, the name here would be an example.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Right.
You
Yep.
get it. So when the color, when it's, okay. So when it's, okay, I do get it. So
now,
okay. So every time that it'll touch sun haze, then it will change the color to whatever color that
the icon is.
Oh wait, but no, that's not good though, because then you wouldn't be able to see the difference if it's the same background color.
Well, you could use semantic colors, that's gonna be fine. Or you could just figure out what the background color is, or you could use a transparent view. But as far as like the object, this would be better than an array.
Yeah, so the icon, it will connect to the whole page.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm going to mess around with it.
Yeah, whenever you start thinking that way, just think of objects before you say, oh, I could have an X array of colors.
Thank you.
Very good. And that goes for all of us, right? Anytime you want to make you want to add functionality to something that's just an array, make an object, and that way, instead of saying our object now, instead of this being icon names, it would be an array of icons, which